And we speak about blockchain technology a bunch, and for most of those discussions, they're about fintech, right? Although not always. Well, RT's Brent Jabbour got a great look at how the supply chain with regard to food is being impacted to use blockchain. And the example they use, of all things, are mangoes. Brent sat down with Aly Madhavji. Check it out.
So it's used in a lot of different ways, right? And this is where a lot of people are only looking at the crypto side and they're missing, I think, what's the bigger picture of what's evolving on the blockchain side. And so there's a lot of great use cases on the private enterprise side. You're seeing governments start to look at this in a very interesting way. Central banks are looking at this in terms of how can money or fiat currencies be digitized potentially and mapped. You're seeing companies, I mean, an example would be Walmart on supply chain. They've put pork on the supply chain with IBM and Tsinghua University. They've also put mangoes on the supply chain, which has substantial savings, right? We're talking about, just as a quick note, I mean, Walmart going from a 7-day transaction auditability time on traditional supply chain for mangoes to 2.2 seconds. There's massive savings that you're starting to see with companies using blockchain today.
For a layman, explain to me how you bring mangoes to the blockchain.
Exactly, right? And so this is where it's fascinating, right? So you take the existing process, right? So you obviously have a lot of different people involved. You've got, all the way from the seed to the planting. You've got obviously then the growing and the picking of the mangoes. You of course want to be tracking like what type of seed was used. You want to see like what type of nutrients was it given. Like, so this could impact, for example, with different types of organic foods, was it organic or non-organic? And taking that information that's already being gathered, but putting it into the blockchain, which allows multiple parties to see this information at the same time and allows you to track certain products very effectively through the blockchain. So if you take this with food, which is very interesting, right? You could have food outbreaks. I mean, you've heard of like E. coli outbreaks, you've heard of other types like melamine outbreaks and other things that could be in certain types of food that humans can't consume that might create outbreaks and national recalls. And with this sort of thing, imagine the ability where all of these things that are already being tracked are just put onto the blockchain so you can track that item all the way through, all the way from that farm to table or fork, where like to the consumer, and now you've got an outbreak. It's very quick for governments or regulators to start doing sampling, start doing a number of tests like in labs or DNA tests or whatever it is on a number of different products. Say, these products are all fine, these came from these farms, these products all got flagged, these came from these farms, and tracking it through every supplier that touched it and those farms, and then being able to shut out all of that to stop an outbreak in a much quicker way.
So like a couple of years ago, we saw, I think it was salmonella, an outbreak with Chipotle.
E. coli, exactly.
Or E. coli.
Exactly.
So, and the problem was that we didn't know where the source was. With the blockchain, we would then be able to figure that out?
Exactly, and so with Chipotle is very interesting, right? So in 2015, they had an E. coli outbreak, and it resulted in them not being able to figure out. This was terrible press. This resulted in a 42% decline in their stock price. We're talking about billions of dollars lost. And yeah, and the problem would be when you do that DNA sampling, they don't have a clear set of records where all the parties are sharing it internally, not publicly, but internally between all of those parties so that they can trace exactly where these products were coming from. Because obviously every store has products from 100 suppliers, right? But how do you know when that specific item came and which suppliers it touched and which farm it exactly came from?